This is a Javelin missile. Much in the same way farmers buy cats to eradicate a growing rodent population in the barn, Ukrainians introduced the non-native Javelin species into their country to control the invasive Russian tank. Like cicadas, periodically Russian tanks gather en masse to infest Ukrainian towns, wreaking havoc along the way. And like other unevolved creatures, Russian tanks only understand violence. And this is where the Javelin excels. Their arrival changes everything. Slicing through cope cage armor with ease, the Javelin attacks from above like an osprey diving for smelt. With so many Javelins attacking from all sides, the tanks panic, packing ever tighter. But this shoaling strategy makes it even easier for the Javelins. The Javelins work together, each taking on a Russian tank, until soon there are no more.
All right, everybody. All right, check into the stream. July 23rd, 2022, day 150 of the war in Ukraine. I'm your host, Andy Mercado. Let's just dive right into it. So just to start off the bat right away, here in Ukraine on July 23rd, 2022, Russia hits key Odessa port one day after landmark grain deal in Ukraine. So this is from Al Jazeera, and I also have video here to show y'all. The missile strike could deal a blow to the deal signed on Friday to unblock grain exports from Black Sea ports. So again, this is coming from Al Jazeera. Russian missiles have hit infrastructure in Ukraine's port of Odessa a day after Russia and Ukraine signed a deal to reopen the Black Sea ports, the Ukrainian military has said. The enemy attacked Odessa sea trade port with Kaliber cruise missiles. 2 missiles were shot down by air defenses. 2 hit the infrastructure of the port, the Operational Command South wrote on Telegram on Saturday. Public broadcaster Susplein quoted the Ukrainian military as saying the missiles had not caused significant damage, and a government minister said preparations continue to restart grain exports from Black Sea ports. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Friday brokered the agreement in a bid to resume grain exports and ease a global food crisis. Odessa, the largest Ukrainian seaport, one of the largest ports in the Black Sea basin, has remained under Kyiv's control, albeit being blockaded by Russia. The signing of the deal on Friday, which includes Odessa as well as the ports of Yuzin and Kostomarsk, has been hailed as a beacon of hope by the UN. Well, here it was hit. Ukrainian officials said that Russian strikes had caused 10 explosions in Odessa on Saturday, one day after the warring sides agreed to a deal to help transport millions of tons of grain out of that port and others into the Black Sea. One day after a deal was struck with Russia. I think I did a poll in the chat, and the majority did not agree that Russia would obey the deal, and here we go, one day later. Also, today is Member Saturday on YouTube, so it's a member-only chat. Saturday is the only day a week that I set the chat to members only on YouTube. Shout out to our members that keep the coverage going. If you can't become a member right now, don't feel obligated. The chat will be open again tomorrow. So here again is the port of Odessa. This was hit today.
Видно, катер ВМС Малин димить, тліє. Приход іменно в нього, там розвалено ззаді.
So again, footage from the port of Odessa. And really quick, I'll show you guys where the city of Odessa is if you're not quite familiar. Not quite familiar with the city of Odessa. It is on the west coast, all right, the west or the southern western region of Ukraine. So I'm going to circle it. Here's the whole country of Ukraine. City of Odessa is here in the blue. Right, and that port was hit one day after a deal was struck with Russia and Ukraine to allow for exports to pass through the Black Sea freely. And Turkey and the UN helped broker that deal, and one day later Russia's hitting the port of Odessa, causing issues. Here's more from that. Russian missiles hit Ukraine's Black Sea port of Odessa. This is credit to RTE News on Twitter. Another thing too, y'all, thank you for all the support as we're going here. Having increasing issues of copyright, especially from Russian sources whenever I'm covering Russian media or whatever, not to parrot their ideology, which we don't do here. It's because we still have to see what the hell they're talking about and what's going on from their point of view. And I'm starting to get copyright takedowns on my streams. So if you missed yesterday's stream, it should be posted now. It took like 12 hours to trim the section out that I needed to and like do what I did. I tried to fight it, didn't win, had to trim the section out. It took like 12 hours to update. So we do have an increasing issue with Russian sources and copywriting on my streams when I'm trying to cover those content. So keep an eye out for those. And also, if a stream does come down, like if you're expecting a stream and you can't see it, try checking out our Facebook page or just wait and I will edit it and get it posted as fast as I possibly can. Thank you guys again. So here's Russian missiles hit Ukraine's Black Sea port of Odessa.
Odessa has endured its fair share of bombardment since the Russian invasion of Ukraine began earlier this year. But it had been hoped that a deal agreed just yesterday would provide some respite. Under the terms of the deal, Russia had agreed not to target ports while grain shipments were in transit, while Ukraine promised to guide cargo ships through mined water. But the Ukrainian military reported that 2 missiles struck infrastructure at the port today and that another 2 missiles were shot down by air defence forces. The Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, said the attack proved that Moscow would not honour the grain deal.
Russia,
no matter what it says and promises, will find ways not to implement it.
Turkey, which had played a part in brokering the deal, expressed its concern over the attack, but said that Moscow had told them that they had nothing to do with the incident. The United Nations Secretary General and
Russia says they had nothing to do with it. All right, they didn't have anything to do with it, y'all. So, right?
Antonio Guterres unequivocally condemned the strikes, while the EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell called them reprehensible. Whether the grain deal can be salvaged remains to be seen. Meanwhile, much of Ukraine's grain remains aboard blockaded ships, in the storehouses of Ukrainian farmers, or lies still unharvested in the fields. Joan O'Sullivan, RT News.
So RTE News giving you guys some visual to that news report that I find. Hey, shout out to Nate Carvalho becoming a member of the YouTube channel. Welcome. And then Christian, shout out for your 2 months of membership. Thank you again to the members on YouTube. The video, let me know if you guys that are non-members that are still watching, if you have issues with the video. You shouldn't. You should still be able to tune in. It's just the comments today are for members only. So here's another report on the Odessa strike from Sky News. Ukraine war missiles hit Odessa hours after the grain agreement.
Have struck the Ukrainian port city of Odessa less than 24 hours after Ukraine and Russia signed a deal over grain exports in the Black Sea. Ukraine's foreign ministry have described it as a spit in the face of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Turkey's President Recep Erdogan. It's the most significant agreement involving the warring parties so far. Russian and Ukrainian officials signed deals with the UN and Turkey to resume grain exports through the Black Sea to help avert a global food crisis. Our correspondent Alex Rossi sent this report from Dnipro.
What we understand is a number of cruise missiles were fired from the Black Sea. Some of them were intercepted by missile defense systems, others did land. Some of them we think landed in the city, but others, it seems, landed in the actual port of Odessa itself, within the infrastructure itself. Now, we should point out that the agreement itself, known as the Black Sea Initiative, is quite limited. It's a very limited and focused ceasefire. Odessa itself is not exempt from hostilities, but the bits of the port that are needed to get the grain moving are. So what this means exactly, we don't know, but certainly I think many people are quite rightly seeing this as extremely cynical by the Russians and an act of really bad faith. Now, we have had some comments from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Ukraine. I'll just read some of it to you now. It took less than 24 hours for the Russian Federation to launch a missile attack on the port of Odessa to question the agreements and promises it made to the UN and Turkey in the documents signed yesterday in Istanbul. The Russian missile is Vladimir Putin's spit in the face of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the Turkish...
And that's a quote, too. The spit in the face is a quote from the UN minister,
who made enormous efforts to reach
the EU Foreign Affairs chief, as I was,
and to whom Ukraine is grateful. Ukraine emphasizes the need for strict implementation of the agreements regarding the restoration of safe exit.
I didn't believe it the minute I saw this news. I hit the sus button immediately. They signed separate agreements to this. Russia doesn't have to obey that. They'll just have to say they lost the agreement. What agreement? I see y'all made an agreement. We don't have one. They made identical yet separate agreements to this.
Export of Ukrainian agricultural goods through the Black Sea ports. We call on the UN and Turkey to ensure that Russia complies with its obligations within the framework of the safe functioning of the grain corridor. In case of non-fulfillment of the agreements reached, Russia will bear full responsibility for the deepening of the global food crisis. So, listening to that, it would sound that the agreement is still alive. Whether or not there's still going to be further mediation, nobody knows. Now, Antonio Guterres described it as a
Russia
beacon.
has not obeyed one single deal that they've made. I still remember vividly when Ukraine and Russia were brokering deals to get the civilians out of Mariupol, so that before the Russians moved in, because the Azov battalion and a couple other units were inside of the Azovstal steel plant. So Ukraine was trying to broker deals to get the civilians and the elderly and the women and children out of Mariupol before the Russians moved in and took it, and they brokered a deal. They got it done, and then a day later, Russia struck the supply lines and the exit points out of Mariupol along the highways, leaving a day after, and also put mines along the roadways out.
A beacon of hope, he said, on the Black Sea. That perhaps wasn't the best way of describing it even yesterday. More like a flicker of hope, and a flicker that can be easily extinguished. Now, certainly, this is very problematic for other reasons. The agreement is extremely complicated in terms of the logistics. Ultimately, it's a commercial agreement. These are commercial ships that are going to take grain out of these ports. They also need to be insured. Cruise missiles slamming into the port of Odessa is not a particularly good look for them. Is anybody going to be involved in this deal? So that's another extremely big question. And of course, if the deal falls down, the grain doesn't come out, the food crisis, which is worsening in some of the poorest countries of the world, is only going to become even more profound.
Yeah, it's going to continue to get worse. It's like 187% down in some countries. It's close to almost 100% in certain, like Sudan and others. I'll pull that report up for tomorrow's stream. Hey, Superfly Vibrations with a $7.77 super chat. Thank you so much for that. Good evening, y'all. Thank you again. So another news update here that to report on is Russian tank attack in eastern Ukraine kills 2 Americans, a Canadian, and a Swede. Let me zoom in on this one. U.S. citizens Luke, quote, Skywalker, Luzukshin, and Brian Young were killed when they were ambushed during a special operation in eastern Ukraine, their commander said. 2 Americans, a Canadian, and a Swedish citizen were killed this week when a Russian tank opened fire on them during an hours-long battle on the front line in the eastern Donetsk region, their commander confirmed exclusively to Politico. Ruslan Miroshchenko, the foreign fighters' commander, said Saturday that the Americans were Luke, quote, Skywalker, Luzukshin, and Brian Young. He said they were killed alongside Emil Antoine Roy Siroris of Canada and Edvard Solander Petrigani of Sweden on July 18th. The men were part of a special operations force within the territorial defense of the armed forces of Ukraine, Miroshchenko said. The unit had been based near Siversk, a town in the eastern Donetsk Oblast that had been the target of Russia's invasion force. Let's pull that up quick. Here's the Ukrainian city of Siversk. So these are where the Americans were killed, right along the line that the Russians are moving to. right along this line here. So the Russians are moving towards Siversk and the city of Bakhmut. And the city of Siversk here is where these Americans were killed. In an attempt to slow Russia's advance, the foreign fighters were deployed to the village of Hurivka, 2 miles northwest of Siversk. There, Mercado said the guys were tasked to take their firing positions and clear a ravine where Russian forces were working to cross a river. They did it successfully, but at the end of the mission, they were ambushed by Russian tanks, Mercado said. The first shell injured Luke, 3 guys, Edward, Emil, and Brian. They immediately attempted to help Luke to do first aid and evacuate him from his spot. Then the second shell killed them all. The State Department spokesperson confirmed the deaths of 2 Americans on Friday, but did not name them. Quote, "We are in touch with the families and providing all possible consular assistance. Out of respect to the families during this difficult time, we have nothing further to add," the spokesperson told Politico. The Canadian and Swedish governments could not immediately be reached for comment. Russian troops have used air power, tanks, and heavy artillery to destroy entire... Okay, that's just more on the foreign fighters. So that's it on the Americans that were killed. Again, 2 Americans, a Canadian, and a Swede were killed in the city of Siversk in the Donetsk region of Ukraine in the last week, on Friday specifically. All right, a couple more news updates here to get into before we get into our combat footage and latest clips coming out of Ukraine. So just a couple paragraphs here to read, and I also have photos to go with it. But we've been talking about this for the last few weeks now, and Ukrainian forces are likely preparing to launch or have launched a counteroffensive in Kherson Oblast as of July 23rd. Open source visibility on the progress and tempo of the counteroffensive will be likely limited and lag behind events. Ukrainian Kherson Oblast Administration Advisor Sergey Kuzovlev stated on July 23rd that Ukrainian forces have seized unspecified settlements in the Kherson Oblast, but called on Ukrainian civilians to remain silent on the progress of counteroffensive until Ukrainian authorities release official statements. Foreign Policy National Security reporter Jack Detsch reported on July 22nd that an unspecified senior U.S. defense official stated that Ukrainian forces have recaptured unspecified portions of Russian-occupied villages in Kherson over the past week of July 15th through the 22nd, indicating that Ukrainian forces may have made some unspecified territorial advances along the front lines. The area between the front line and Kherson City is rural and primarily composed of small settlements that are less to report on force movements and engagements, allowing control of terrain in this area to change without evidence appearing in open source reporting. Russian authorities additionally have no incentive to report on Ukrainian territorial gains. The informational dynamics that allow a study report to report on the Russian offensive operations with relatively little lag are thus inverted in this situation. Study War will report on the progress of any Ukrainian counteroffensives to the best of its ability within these constraints. So just that means the Russian advances into Ukraine, that news and information is quickly spread, and the information of Ukraine's counteroffensives and regaining territory is harder to come across. All right, so really quick, let's get to the map on that real fast, and Ukraine's counteroffensives, which we'll touch on again at the end of the stream for the map breakdown. But here's the city of Mykolaiv and Kherson, and then the blue on your screen is the Ukrainian counteroffensive. So that is the territory that Russia once held, and now Ukraine has it under their control. Here's the city of Mykolaiv, and then we have the, oh great, I need it back. All right, city of Mykolaiv, and then we have the city of Kherson here, and this is the fighting going on between. And the latest few updates we have seen and reports have been the Ukrainians striking the bridges in Kherson, especially this one. This is the Antionivsky Bridge that the Ukrainians have shelled. They shelled it last week a few times to the point where only civilian vehicles can drive across. Large trucks and military equipment can't make it across the bridge here in the Antionivsky Bridge. And the majority of the ground fighting taking place between the Russian forces and Ukrainian forces are taking place on each side of the Inhluets River here in the Kherson region. They're battling over each bank of the river, all right? As well as continuous shelling of Russian ammunition deposits and depots and key Russian targets the Ukrainians have been shelling for the past week in the southern axes near Kherson. More on that. Head of the Chechen Republic Ramzan Kadyrov, so the leader of the TikTok army, seemingly confirmed that Colonel General Sergey Kuzovlev has replaced Army General Alexander Dvornikov as acting commander of Russia's southern military district. So the General Sergey Kuzovlev, let's see what that guy looks like. So this guy right here on your screen, this Russian dude, replaced this guy. That's the news today for the new Russian command in the southern axes, because the Ukrainians are on their heels, and the Ukrainian military is preventing the future annexation goals of the Kremlin in the south. So there's a new commander. So this dude's done. He's out of there. This guy here is now taking over as the Southern Operational Command in Ukraine. Kadyrov stated that Kuzovlev, to whom he explicitly referred as acting commander of the SMD, visited Chechnya on July 23rd in order to inspect Kadyrov's Bakhmut battalions. Kuzovlev had previously served as chief of staff of the SMD and commanded the Russian grouping of Syria from November of 2020 to February of 2021. Kuzovlev's visit and inspection of Kadyrov's forces, which comes 2 days after Kadyrov announced that these battalions will not immediately be deploying to Ukraine, may suggest other hints that Kadyrov is facing mounting domestic pressure. The anti-Kadyrov Sheikh Mansour battalion reportedly announced an insurgency against Kadyrov's regimes on July 21st. Kadyrov may want to hold the newly formed Bakhmut battalions in Chechnya to handle any local unrest. So there's an anti-Kadyrov battalion in Chechnya. Anti-Kadyrov battalion in Chechnya. So there's a lot of infighting going on right now within the Russian forces between the mill bloggers, like the pro-Russian ideological content creators, and those that are parroting the Russian ideology, not like the Russian military, what they're doing on the ground, but the ideology. They're trolling the Kremlin now because of the failures within Russia. There's lots of infighting going on. Ad hoc government control over the annexed city, or not annexed, they're not annexed yet, over the Russian occupied cities within the southern axis in Ukraine, as well as in the east. Just a lot of uncertainty going on within these Russian controlled cities, as well as these conscription battalions / volunteer battalions that are fighting for Russia. So now, after that, let's continue on. Let's go into our war report update. Our combat footage timeline. If you guys could comment where you're tuning in from. It is Member Saturday here on YouTube, so the chat is open to all of our amazing members of the channel. And also shout out to our Facebook audience, finally getting notifications back out there. Shout out to Kathy for the 500 stars, thank you so much. MJ Steinmach Connor for the 100 stars, thank you so much for that. And also we had a super chat from Kristen for $5, thank you so much for all of the support. All right, let's get into it here. Video of D-20 artillery strikes by Ukraine's 45th Artillery Brigade on a Russian CAM AZ truck. So you got Ukraine's 45th striking Russian vehicles in this clip. Fresno, California. Also YouTube, I do have captions on now. We haven't had captions on in quite some time, and I have the captions turned on, so that is a feature. Striking Russian positions and vehicles. Hello, Texas. How you doing, Kristen? Chico, California. Catoosa, Oklahoma. Welcome. Thank you so much. Let's go to the next video. These are the last two videos and then of July 22nd, or the last few. I was live early yesterday because I took the night off, so I was live at noon yesterday. So these are some of the videos that were posted after I was live. And if you missed yesterday's update, that video is posted now. It's the trimming has finished. The copyright strikes, or the copyright claims from the Russian sources are gone now. Brian Wilson, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much. Video of a Stugna P ATGM strike, which ATGM stands for Anti-Tank Guided Missile. Ukraine's 58th Independent Motorized Infantry Brigade. P's in the chat.
Там он двоє щось несуть, бачиш?
Це двоє.
І вон толпа йде. Раз, два, три.
Все.
Peas in the chat. Hello, Alaska. Hello, Florida. Florida. Deep River, Michigan. East Freedom, Pennsylvania. Good to see you. Alaska. Kristen, thank you. What does anniversary follower mean? It means you've hit your follower anniversary date or week.
No.
On Facebook. All right, so Stugna P ATGM strike on a independent motorized infantry brigade. Video of artillery strikes on Russian positions by Ukraine's 56th motorized brigade. So more Russian positions struck. Oops, that's ridiculous. Apologies. We got potato quality here. Extra potato. Orlando, Damien, welcome. Indiana, thank you for joining us, Terry. Hello, Melinda. Thank you so much. Okay, so again, these are Russian positions struck by Ukrainian artillery. Posted on July 22nd, yesterday. Let's continue here. So 16 hours ago, video presumably of mortar strikes by Ukraine's 68th Jaeger Infantry Brigade on Russian troops and BTR-82 vehicles. So again, these are Ukrainian strikes on Russian vehicles. Hey, good evening, Rose. Darlene, thank you for those 200 stars. Hello from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thank you for joining us. All right, so again, those are just Russian vehicles struck by Ukraine's 68th Jaeger Infantry Brigade. 5 hours ago, video of Stugna P anti-tank guided missile strike reportedly on a Russian BMP by Ukraine's 58th Motorized Brigade.
Танк. Он. Выше. Опа. Вот сюда. На тебе. Смотри, стоит. На! Украине, блядь! Героям слава! Смотри, как горит.
So again, this is a Stugna P anti-tank guided missile strike.
Танк. Он. Выше. Опа. Вот сюда. На тебе. Смотри, стоит. На!
Hey, thank you so much for that, Christine. Thank you. Video of a Russian cruise missile launched at Odessa this morning. So this is the city of Odessa that we talked about at the beginning of the stream. And the port that was struck one day after Russia and Ukraine agreed to an export deal. That's the missile flying over Odessa. Continuing on, more from that Russian cruise missile flying over Odessa. Okay, quick video, about a 4-second video there. Here you got a Russian BMP-T tank support combat vehicle. Russian BMP-T tank here. Got the Russian flag on the back. Got the V on the front. Looks like it's got a V with a circle around the V, and it's also got an O marker next to it as well. All right, video of aftermath of Ukrainian strikes on the bridge. More bridge strikes. More. So which one is this bridge? Near Darivka outside of Kherson. So we need to look up where this bridge is. Here it is. If the Ukrainians hit these bridges, they can cut the Russian military off. If Ukraine destroys these bridges, they'll cut the Russian military off in the Kherson Oblast. I'm wondering if that might be their initial strategy, to take the top portion of Kherson off. Here, let's pull that up. Pull that up. Clear. So we're staying in the southern axes quick. We're staying down here. So again, I said the bridge in the Antionivsky bridge was hit last week. Let's go bigger. I'm wondering if the Ukrainians are gonna just take this top part of the Kherson Oblast above the is it the Dnipro River? Shoot. One second, y'all. Yes, the Dnipro River. Sorry, I had the Inhluets in my head for a second. It's not the Inhluets. So I'm wondering, and this is just my speculation here, if the Ukrainians aren't gonna just focus on this top part, including this, it include the city of Kherson, just the north region of the Dnipro River, and take this portion off. Because again, if the Ukrainians destroy these bridges, they will cut the Russians off. There's a bridge that they're already hitting here again. This is the Antionivsky Bridge. There's a bridge over here at Nova Kakhovka, which is also a dam. And then where is this bridge? Darivka. It's in the Kherson Oblast. It's an interesting. Okay, that's not close to the city of Kherson. So that's where the bridge that we're seeing in this video was hit. So let's go to our war map. Pull out a little bit. Pull backwards. So that bridge was hit. Down here. Interesting strike on a bridge. And then the other bridges, which, like I said, that the Ukrainians have been hitting, is the Antionivsky Bridge. This is the one they've been hitting. So they hit this bridge and this bridge to the southeast of the Antionivsky Bridge. The other bridges that are here is there's a rail bridge here. And then again, there's a dam in Nova Kakhovka that they've been hitting the ammunition deposits in the last week here. So there's not many ways across this Dnipro River. If the Ukrainians can hit these bridges, they've already started on one of them. I'm not sure what this one's for, but at least one of these bridges, they hit these next two, they will cut the Russians off, and there's no way across the river unless they start making man-made bridges like they did in the east when the Ukrainians blew those bridges up. The only difference is the Russians have a lot of force capability in the east. They put all of their resources, all of their rocket trucks, all of their best units to the east, so they were able to quickly put a bridge up and get across and overpower the Ukrainians. Here they don't have the resources that they do, or excuse me, here the Russians don't have the military resources or power that they do like they have in the east. This is very reasonable for the Ukrainians to take back the city of Kherson, and all the reports suggest is that they are preparing to do so. So again, that was the bridge near Darivka, this one, super southeast from the Antionivsky Bridge. Not anywhere near the city. It's closer to Crimea, actually. Now it's closer to the Crimean Peninsula. I think we have another video, though. Here's another one. Same bridge.
Всі в ряд, як наче їх хтось сверлив тут.
So some passerby Just driving, showing the craters. Similar to the Antonivsky Bridge.
Всі в ряд, як наче
The
їх
Ukrainians are definitely preparing for a big counteroffensive in the south. It's just the evidence is there.
свалили тут.
You can't argue with the video evidence that's coming out, and just bridges are being hit in the south and Ukrainians are moving. It's gonna happen. All right, and we've also heard a report. Here's more. Same bridge. This is close to Crimean Peninsula. Anybody? Maybe we should do a poll in the chat. Anybody think the Ukrainians are gonna blow up the bridge to Crimea? Remember now, Crimea is annexed. That's why the Russians are trying to hurry up the annexation processes in the other cities in the south. So they're still able to get they're still able to get military equipment across. Still able to get military equipment across at this time. Okay. Is there any more further? Definitely a HIMARS strike. So here's from order of the... I'm not sure what that means. That's definitely a HIMARS. Take a look at this pre-perforated shrapnel. That's distinctive from the M31 unitary warhead. Damaged by shelling, either by a 155mm or a HIMARS. So some of the shrapnel on the ground from those strikes, trying to analyze exactly what hit the bridge. Again, that bridge, one more time. The bridge we're looking at here in this specific video, bigger circle, down in the south. It's in the small circle, but I wanted to highlight and bring it to your attention. So it's down here, close to the Crimean Peninsula. The bridge that we've been seeing getting hit in the last week is, again, the Antonivsky Bridge, which is right outside the city of Kherson. Also reports that I've seen in Novokhovka, in this dam here, is the Ukrainians struck the road near the dam. They haven't hit the dam, but they've struck a road. Maybe I should go into it if you guys are new really quick, and I'll show you these bridges over here. So here's the Antonivsky Bridge. The Ukrainians have already started to hit that. We go into... No. You can kind of see it from here in the distance. So there's the Antonivsky Bridge. Ukrainians have already struck that, and you can see the city of Kherson. It's in the distance. It's right behind it. So Ukrainians are striking that. Ukrainians are striking the road near the dam in Novokhovka, because again, this is it. There's only two main crossings across this river here, and that's in the Antonivsky Bridge in Kherson, and it's the Novokhovka Dam here, which I'll zoom in on, and let's go look at that. Here's the dam in Novokhovka. It's the only other way across on this river, and then you have a rail bridge, which is very skinny. They get up to the dam, drive across. There's the dam. This is in Novokhovka. Ukrainians have been shelling Russian ammunition depots in this city in preparation for the counteroffensive in the Kherson Oblast. Signage from the dam. So this is one of the main ways across the Dnipro River. And if the Ukrainians destroy that, and if they continue to shell the Antonivsky Bridge, which they've already started doing, they will cut the Russian military off. Even just look at it here on the satellite. Right? If they destroy those two bridges, that'll force the Russians to make those man-made bridges, which the Ukrainians have this river on the UAV capability they have down here. The Ukrainians have more of it. So if the Russians start to build a man-made bridge, they'll destroy that. So if the Ukrainians take this bridge out here, and they take this bridge out here, that's the only two ways across. Let's zoom in. There's one more. Here it is. Can we go into it? There's the other way across. There's 3 ways. There's the railhead. Okay, 2 main roads though. Two main roadways to get across for in terms of military equipment and supplies. This would be quick destroy if the Russians avert to the railhead to try to bring equipment into the northern part of the Dnipro River. Again, if the Ukrainians take those 2 bridges out and that railhead, which I don't know if the Russians would even use that. Also, keep in mind, look how thick the river is. There's only a few places, maybe in Kherson, to get one of those man-made bridges, or they'd have to focus maybe down towards the outlet here, or the inlet. I'm not a geography expert. I don't know if this is called an inlet or an outlet. But where the river ends, maybe in here they could get a couple of their man-made bridges across. But Ukraine has their eyes on here. Mykolaiev's here. They have their UAVs in the air. They're all over it. All right, we'll see if that happens in the coming days. We're getting more and more reports of the bridges being destroyed. Let's continue. I want to beat a dead horse here. But that's the bridge that was destroyed. That bridge, again, southeast from the Antonivsky Bridge. Video of Russian precision-guided missile strike on a building. Is it another one of those square buildings? Is that snow on the ground? Oh. How many of these long rectangular buildings have... Is that snow? This video's sus. They steal that camera out of the washing machine? I'm dead. Comments are funny. But yeah, we've seen too many videos that look very similar to this one. Is that snow? Why are they hitting buildings that look the exact same in every single one of these type of UAV videos? Here's another video from the bridge, which we've already seen when I went through the bridge update on the map quick. This again to the southeast of the Antonivsky Bridge, close to the Crimean Peninsula. Maybe to try to stop the Russian military from coming up through Crimea and prevent that from taking place. Very large explosion in Horlivka from earlier today. Russian sources say a factory was struck. Russian factory, so Horlivka. And I know where that is, memorized. Okay, city of Horlivka is in the east in Donbass. We cover it frequently. There it is. Yeah, I know exactly where it is as I struggle to find it. No, it's right here. Here is the city of Horlivka. It's to the northeast of Advidka. All right, you got the city of Donetsk here. It's to the northeast of the city of Donetsk, and just to the southwest of Horlivka. You can get to it from the E40 highway. All right, here's Lugansk. Here's the city of Horlivka. Russian factory was hit there. I'd say so. Yeah, that's a big one. Factory in Horlivka destroyed. There's a number of videos showing what looks like incendiary munitions used in Donetsk tonight.
Офигеть. Но это ПВО сработало, других вариантов нет.
Incendiary munitions.
Зажигалка, фосфор. Фосфор пошел.
How effective?
Блин, там моя машина.
Yeah. Those are probably more effective in the countryside, right? That's terrifying.
Офигеть. Но это
The
ПВО
incendiary
сработало.
munitions, you
Других
just look up
вариантов
and you see fireballs coming down towards you.
нет. А, зажигалка, фосфор. Фосфор пошел.
Hey, Oxer Y, should I take a dab of white rhino or sour diesel? Sour diesel. 420 friendly newscast here.
Блин, там моя машина.
Again, this is incendiary munitions used on the city of Donetsk. Number of videos. Do we have more? Well, here's another look at it. And then you just, oh man, that would be terrifying to see that. So again, that is incendiary munitions. We have more. Geolocation of incendiary bomblets of 9M22S Grad rockets raining down on Donetsk city. Well, let's get the exact geolocation. So here is where we're looking at. Here's where we're looking at. This guy's house is right here looking at the apartments. We get on the ground? No. Oh, we can go here. So the bomblets are dropping. There's the tall apartment from the video. This is where we're looking at here across the what is this, a lake? There's a lake from the video. Oh, it's off the other bridge. It's off here. So there's the apartment. That's the tall apartment in the back. Probably easier to see that from this video. So here's that tall apartment that we see in the geolocation on the Google Maps.
Фосфор пошел.
Man, that would be that'd be scary. I'm wondering how effective are they? I mean, it hits that tree and just dissipates. I mean, those are probably highly effective in the countryside where there's lots of green. Another video from Horlivka from earlier today. So the city of Horlivka, which we talked about prior to this, which is to the northeast of the city of Donetsk here. So again, Horlivka. This is Horlivka here.
О, смотри, дымится. Опять где-то возле Оптова, блядь. Я только проехала, блин. Ёперный балет. Блядь. Сука.
Damn.
Ты смотри, блядь, что творится, а.
So again, this is in the Russian occupied city of Horlivka in the Donetsk Oblast.
Опять где-то возле Оптова, блядь. Я только проехала.
I'm not seeing sparks fly out, so I don't know if it was ammunition. If it was an ammunition depot, you'd see sparks and fireballs coming out of it. Okay, continue on here. Maybe there's more. Is there more video from Horlivka? Nope, just the two. Video of a Ukrainian M777 artillery strikes on Russian BTRs, a command post, and a tank. So you got 777 strikes on Russian BTRs, a command post in the Kharkiv Oblast. This is to the northeast on the border, the international border. The other side of the border is the city of Belgorod. Want to keep it. I'm not sure if this audio is copyrighted or not. Everything's copyrighted nowadays. There's a BTR. There's the Russian positions that were hit. That looks like a T-80 tank right there. Oof. Looked like a T-80 sitting next to the BTR that was just hit there at the ending. And there's the Russian BTR that was struck. Alright. Photos of the first. Let's see if there's any more. There has been more. No more videos since I've been live here. Oh, we got more videos. More videos. Alright. Photos of a first company of the Tobol Volunteer Engineering Unit raised in Tyumen before they depart for training. The volunteers will sign contracts for the military service before training begins, and this company will become part of the Russian military. Fresh troops for the Russian military here, as they need more. Volunteers again will sign contracts for military service before training begins, and this company will become part of the Russian military after that completes. Video of a strike on a Russian tank in the Izium area by Ukraine's 93rd Mechanized. Russian tank destroyed by Ukrainian artillery.
No, сука. Пидорас. No, сука.
And there it was. There it was hit there. Alright, continuing on here. Here's more from that. The second video shows the soldiers running away from the tank.
Что, полиция, блядь, вызывает? Милиция, блядь.
Running.
Сука в нього автомат. Не сучка.
В белых футболках, блядь, конченые, сука, бегут, блядь. Две, гниды, блядь. Кто як встиг? Вискочить, так і біжить.
Where are they going? Are they running back to Russia?
Очко ж не желізне, блядь, ебано в рот.
If this is in Kharkiv, they could run back to Russia, actually.
Короче, в самому кінці посадки бліндаж. Треба завтра по ньому отработать, блядь. А може даже і
That summarizes the Russian military. This is a perfect video summary right here, as well as the other ones, the other vast amounts of video that show the Russian military. That's it right here. This guy, does he even have a shirt on when he gets out? You're out of there. I don't know where they're gonna run to. The drone's on them. Interesting. Photos of destroyed Ukrainian M777 howitzer. Destroyed Ukrainian M777 howitzer. So again, just like we've been seeing the fake news reports of destroyed HIMARS systems from the Russian media, here's an example of a destroyed M777. So if there was an actual destroyed HIMARS, you would see pictures of it. Or video, because that's how the Russian military, or how the Russian media works. They'll show you what you want to see when it's time. They'll lie until that point. So there's a destroyed Ukrainian M777 howitzer. The third video, so I'm going to look at the second video then. Oh, same happening. So this is the back to the Russians that left their tank behind. A third video shows artillery strikes by Ukraine's 93rd Mechanized Brigade and a retreating Russian BMP reportedly in the Izium area. Doesn't look like any strikes hit the vehicle.
Приход, Данді розбудуражив типів. Розбудив зіра, що, блядь, що робити, типи, хуй його знає. Машина, блядь! Блядь, командир, что делать, блядь? А я обосрался, командир. Ебать ми їх нахуячили. Ебать мене там вахуй за сьогодні. Ляп нахуй. Реки доганять буде, підожди.
Y'all saw what happened?
Ти побіг. Стало. Мы своих не бросаем.
We'll go back and show you one more time.
А це вже на опереження взяли якраз. Да, блядь. Якраз би він туди поїхав, якраз би в нього залетіло.
Alright, so if you missed it...
А я обосрался, командир.
One more time on this. This is the retreating Russian BMP in the Izium area after they struck the tank. You can see the Russians quickly are trying to get onto the BMP, puts his rifle up there.
He gets
up there for a second. Vehicle takes off and he falls off. He fell off the back as it was taken off there. One more time. It's the guy that's getting on the back.
Ебать ми їх нахуячили. Ебать мене там вахуй за сьогодні. Ляп нахуй.
Alright, falls off the back. What do you got here? Azov SSO has upgraded the captured Russian BTR-82A by adding a thermal imager and additional armor plates. They also plan to add air conditioning and better communications with a Starlink device. Oh, it's with the Ukrainian. They're going to get air conditioning in there? Wishful thinking. Remember when they told us we were going to get air conditioning in our vehicles? Ice cubes it was into the AC reservoir. Video of a Russian Ka-52 Vickers anti-tank guided missile strike. Oh, wow. Russian video here. A Russian missile strike there. Here you got a Russian UAV footage of the aftermath of Russian strikes, possibly taken from a forepost or Inokadets. Oh man. These UAVs are terrible. Horrible UAV footage. Second video recorded by a UAV of a Russian strike at a distance. Likely four-post UAV. Striking those long rectangular buildings again. Same long rectangular buildings there. See if we get any new ones. No. Booster section of the Russian Pantsir S-19M335 anti-aircraft missile reportedly watched ashore in Bulgaria. Presumably, this missile was launched from Snake Island. Russian missiles washing ashore in Bulgaria. That's it from Rob Lee's timeline from the last 24 hours. So let's go to the Ukraine war video report on Reddit. Also, guys, take a moment, hit that like button if you haven't on the YouTube video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It is Member Saturday for our YouTube channel. I don't have ad revenue on these streams, so I don't get anything from ads or any support that way. I gotta shut it off. So all the support that I get is from members and patrons and those that send super chats and super stickers. Our supporters on Facebook. Shout out to everybody that supports Mercado Media. Thank you guys so much. Couldn't continue doing this without you. Ukraine war mega threat. Also, if you tomorrow, if you want to tune in tomorrow to our coverage or beyond, Saturdays are the only day that the chat is set to members only. So if you want to comment, you'll be able to during tomorrow's stream, or I'm going to be live tonight after the stream's over that I'll talk about at the end. I'll get there at the end. I'm going to be streaming a game called Stray again. It's a cat game, just came out. I streamed it during the daytime and a little bit at nighttime, but it's a nice relaxing game. Perfect post-war coverage game to play, where you just play as a cat and then it's like an adventure game. You gotta tune in. Wild explosion of Russian ammunition depot. We've seen this. This was in the city of Horlivka. This is a little earlier in the feed. Ammunition depot in Horlivka was struck. The city of Odessa was struck after the deal between Ukraine and Russia went through yesterday. And Russia responded by striking a port in Odessa to further to make the exports of grain even harder. The day after they brokered a deal. Russia can't be trusted in any deals at all. Kramatorsk, Ukraine. Thanks everybody who donate for my family's firewood.
From Kramatorsk, Donetsk region, Ukraine. Our region is without gas since May. 2 days ago, I turned to the readers of this community and asked them to donate for my family's firewood or goal. Thanks to everybody who joined, we were able to buy some of the fuel.
They were able to buy some more firewood with some donations. And again, the city of Kramatorsk, which I'll pull up on the map. City of Kramatorsk is here in the same region, in this pocket in the Donbass. Here is the Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk. Made the news a couple months ago for the train station that Russia shelled and killed over 50 civilians. People watch the work of air defense system from the beach in Odessa, Ukraine, while Russia attacks the Odessa port the day after signing the grain export corridor agreement. Sure, I'm not sure what a game list means. It's an option. You don't have to tune in. Here's a Russian Ghost Rider in the Belgorod region.
Военная машина загорелась. Глянь, это вокруг нам придется ехать. Мы ж не проедем. Они едут вон сами. Уезжают. Водитель горит. Прикинь. Блядь. Кать, назад, сдавай. Сдавай назад, сдавай назад. Бля. Ёб твою мать.
Russian vehicle on fire. Oh wow.
Да хоть ты вылез-то, ёбаный в рот. Да нахуй тебе нужна машина эта ёбаная. Да он уже сгорел, видишь, он не видит, куда он едет. Ёб твою налево. Нету сзади машин хоть.
Russian vehicle on fire. Wow. More time with that. So this doesn't in Belgorod. So in the Belgorod region, I'll pull this up on the map quick so you get an idea of where this is. What footage there. So we're going up into the northeast, Kharkiv, Belgorod. Belgorod's in Russia, on the international border. I'm going to circle Belgorod in red because it's a Russian city. In Russia, actually, not in Ukraine. There's Belgorod, and then you see the truck on fire with presumably troops in there. Hey, what up, Revenge? Good to see you. Good to see all of our viewers. Drop a comment. Good to see all of our members. If you're watching on Facebook, drop a hey in the chat.
Мы ж не проедем. Они едут вон сами. Уезжают. Водитель горит. Прикинь. Блядь. Кать, назад, сдавай. Сдавай назад, сдавай назад. Бля. Ёб твою мать. Да хоть ты вылез-то, ёбаный в рот. Да нахуй тебе нужна машина эта ёбаная. Да он уже сгорел, видишь, он не видит, куда он едет. Ёб твою налево. Нету сзади машин хоть.
Hey, thanks, James.
Он угоняет.
Wow. It smells. Oh, here we go. Spark went up for this. It's only 36 seconds, though. More genocidal rhetoric on Russian state TV. Hosts and pundits repeatedly assert that Ukraine no longer exists. Ukrainians who refuse to see themselves as Russians and fight back against the invasion are described as Nazis and compared to worms.
Мы должны строить свое будущее с культурой, с отоплением и без Украины.
А почему без Украины?
Потому что Украина в том виде, в котором она была, не может продолжать существовать. А как?
Ты знаешь,
ну, естественно, без той Украины, которую мы знаем последние много лет.
Я просто к чему? Тут
просто это уже будет не Украина, то, что будет.
Когда врач у кошки изгоняет глисты, то для врача это специальная операция. Для глистов это война, а для кошки это очищение.
Вот.
So there they go. They just said it. I mean, when a doctor is deworming a cat, for the doctor, it's a special operation.
Специальная операция. Для глистов это война.
For the worms, it's a war.
А для кошки это очищение.
And for the cat, it's a cleansing.
Вот.
That's from the Russian state TV. Media Watch. Ukraine will receive 4+ generation jet fighters. The USA is considering several options for arming the Ukrainian Air Force. Since 2020, the command of the Air Forces of Ukraine considered the SAAB JAS-39 Gripen as a replacement for the old Soviet aircrafts. Sorry about that. Ukraine will receive 4+ generation jet fighters. The Saab JAS-39 Gripen. What is that? We should probably look that up. And what does it compare to? If there's a video for this one. The best fighter jet you've never heard of. Interesting. All right.
You are probably familiar with famous fighter jets like the F-16 Falcon or F-22 Raptor. Globally, these multi-role combat jets are well known for their superior features and offensive capabilities. But have you ever heard of the Saab JAS-39 Gripen? Though not as famous as its U.S. counterpart, the Swedish fighter jet should not be underestimated when it comes to systems and capacity. Well, how amazing is it really? Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Military TV. In today's episode, we will take a look at the Swedish Saab JAS-39 Gripen, a
Swedish jet.
Swedish multi-role combat airplane. For more interesting information on this topic, don't go anywhere and stay tuned. Manufactured.
Again, credit to Military TV for this video. I wish I had a video like this for every piece of equipment.
By the Swedish aerospace and defense company Saab AB, JAS-39 Gripen is a light single-engine multi-role combat aircraft in service with the Swedish Air Force. The Gripen features a delta wing, which is a wing shaped in the form of a triangle. It also has a canard configuration with negative stability design and fly-by-wire flight system, replacing the conventional manual flight controls with an electronic interface. By 2020, more than 200 Gripens of various models A to F have been developed. First, let's dig into the history of the JAS-39 Gripen. The development of JAS-39 Gripen began when Sweden sought to build new fighters to replace its aging Saab-35 Draken and Saab-37 Viggen in the late 1970s. For a defensive dispersed basing plan in the case of invasion, the Swedish Air Force needed a cheap Mach 2 aircraft with good short-field performance. The concept included 800-meter-long by 17-meter-wide primitive runways from the Base 90 system. One goal was to make the plane smaller than the Viggen while maintaining or increasing its payload range performance. The Saab-38, also known as the B-3LA, was proposed as an attack aircraft and trainer, and the A-20, a modification of the Viggen, was proposed as a fighter, attack, and maritime reconnaissance aircraft. The General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon, the McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet, and the Northrop F-20 Tiger Shark were among the foreign designs which were studied and taken as references. In 1979, the Swedish government commenced a study for an all-around platform capable of JAS, which stands for Aerial Warfare, Close Air Support, as well as Reconnaissance, indicating multi-role capabilities to satisfy various roles during missions. A number of Saab designs were reconsidered, with Project 2105 being the most favorable, recommended to the government by the Defense Material Administration.
Okay, so it's from Sweden. Any other further information?
At Linkoping,
prototype crash. There's some history. I want to go to now.
Plus generation fighters on size, along with the low cost required to operate this aircraft. Even though it's difficult to calculate the flyaway cost, the Gripen reportedly had the government spend less than $60 million.
$60 million, okay.
The Gripen
there we go,
has
maximum 16,500 kilograms.
A range of approximately 1,500 kilometers.
Accelerate up to Mach 2 speed, has a range of approximately 1,500 kilometers.
For either Beyond Visual Range Missile, BVR, and dogfighting combatants, Gripen is surely at the top of its class. The Gripen has a reputation for being user-friendly, with simple displays and a straightforward interface. In terms of lethality, the Gripen was the first fighter in the world to carry the lethal Meteor air-to-air missile, a beyond visual range BVR weapon capable of tracking and killing targets up to 80 miles away. The Gripen C is capable of carrying 4 Meteor missiles, while the Gripen E is capable of carrying 7. Another interesting aspect of the Gripen is the addition of dedicated electronic warfare pods to the Gripen's already allegedly formidable onboard jamming capabilities. According to Saab, this is probably the most advanced EW suite carried by a fighter, making the Gripen a valuable commodity for suppression or destruction of enemy air defense dead missions.
Well, that's going to be in Ukraine's hands now. That's the JAS-39 Gripen. Ukraine will receive 4+ generation jet fighters. Alright, they're going to receive 4 of them to replace their Soviet aircrafts in Ukraine. Alright. Donbass is reported by a Russian channel. What does this mean? Oh, it's just photos from the Russian channel on Telegram. Okay. Continuing on. Ukraine, another T-72B series tank of the Russian forces was knocked out in the east. It's on Twitter.
Turn
it up some.
Пиздують за добичі. Біжи, не очкуй. Я тебе прикрию, Кент. Злий інгуш довийобувався. Я ж кажу, він от тут... Каже, пулемет би сняв, о, придурок. Диви бумагу. Бери бумагу, може обісраємося. Дивися на башню туди, щоб той ніякий дебіл не виліз. Броніки скидає. Бери РПС, може комусь треба буде. Не може снять. У Вови ножик є, блядь. Давай. Нас. Сука. Цигані, термосів. Давай, давай, відходимо, бо наші хуярять.
Сука, розкрадають русські танки, блядь.
Ну, воїни света, блядь.
Мародьори, йобані, блядь.
And T-72 taken out in the east in Ukraine. We saw this yesterday. A woman, a Karen, I should say, in Southeast Asia that was accusing local residents of disliking Putin and just all sorts of Karening taking place. We saw that yesterday. More, we saw that. Here is the MI6 has told an international conference that he believes Russia is about to run out of steam in Ukraine.
But then another image emerges that forces the lens back into high definition. A father kneeling beside his 13.
Nope. Sorry about that. Nope, I don't need to see that. It's available though. It's the father and his 13-year-old son, and his son's laying dead on the ground.
2 missiles hit what the Ukrainians said was a humanitarian aid depot in that city. Yesterday, the Russian foreign minister indicated that Russia's ambitions extended far beyond just taking the Donbass in the east, the stated aim in April, and now included taking more territory in the south as well.
Так, если более-менее. Сейчас география другая. Это далеко не только ДНР, ЛНР. Это еще и Херсонская область, Запорожская область.
A lot of hopium from, we went over that the other day, hopium from Lavrov saying that they're going to extend their special military operation even further west beyond the Donbass.
And what they can actually achieve militarily are worlds apart. A point made by the US's top general today, who said Russia was advancing at just a kilometer a day in the Donbass.
The Ukrainians are making the Russians pay for every inch of territory that they gain. And advances are measured in literally hundreds of meters. Some days you might get a kilometer or two out of the Russians, but not much more than that. So high cost, battle of attrition, grinding, not lost yet in the Donbass, and the Ukrainians intend to continue the fight.
The head of MI6 said today he believes Russia is about to run out of steam in Ukraine.
Our assessment is that the Russians will increasingly find it difficult to supply manpower, material over the next few weeks. They will have to pause in some way.
If that assessment is correct, it could open the door for a more focused counteroffensive in the south around the city of occupied Kherson. The Ukrainians have been concentrating firepower on key infrastructure there, like this bridge over the Dnipro River into the city.
Antonivsky Bridge that we've talked about.
There is another front line, though, the one where energy and food are the weapons. Today, the Russians turned back on the Nord Stream 1 gas pipeline, but at reduced capacity. The European Commission is urging countries to cut gas use by 15% over the next 7 months. But on food, a possible breakthrough. It's being reported in the last hour that Ukraine and Russia will sign a deal in...
All right, and that's old news now. So Russia, they did sign a deal, and then today Russia struck Odessa, which is an export of grain to the south. Ukrainian forces like these who are training on July 21st are being quickly brought up to speed on new weapons. Credit to Radio Free Europe. Credit to Radio Free Europe for this on Reddit.
Одна граната осколочным залпом. По пидорасам 333!
У вас показывает азимут и прицел, на которого вы работаете. Верхнее положение, азимут, нижнее. На 350. Понял? Установи сам и смотри сам. Только рукой теперь тут немножко играйся. У тебе тут темна куча железа, понял, да? Поступила на озброєння за наземну зброю, як протитанкова, так і міномети. Зараз проводимо навчання наших хлопців для того, щоб вони упевнено могли працювати вже на нулях.
Ukrainian artillery units have claimed recent successes in hitting key Russian targets.
Сними. Сколько раз говорил?
Ammunition depots far from the front have been hit, they say, slowing enemy shelling. was in Nova Kakhovka, that video.
Проходите дальше, проходите.
Тік-ток, свату. Тік-ток, на зв'язок. Грім дачі.
3 рази. По базам забезпечень. Дуже близьких і дуже хороших хлопців втрачаємо тут. І дуже багато вже моїх побратимів, кого я знав. І з ким я був, і з Ірпеня ще. Ми приїхали сюди. Якось, не знаю. Неприємно на душі. Дуже неприємно. Але приходиться з тим жити, бо...
That is very sad. You have to live with it. Radio Free Europe, credit to them for that report. Ukrainian field stripping a UAR-10 sniper rifle.
Може, раз, два, три?
Смысл?
Давай на счет 3. Давай. Раз, 3.
Don't lose the pin. Oh wow. I would have anxiety dropping all those parts on that and roll off.
Дайте 3 хліба, один не надо. Васька, я що знімаю, блядь, з камерою, блядь, включений? Там ночі? Ну так. Вискочилося саме.
Same exact process as an M4, M16. Right? Break it down, that's what you do to clean it. You take all those parts out, pull it out, clean them. So you don't have crap all over your equipment. HIMARS getting after it. A couple days ago, U.S. General Mark Milley announced that contrary to Russian claims, no HIMARS have yet been destroyed. There have not been any destroyed HIMARS yet at this time. Okay. We saw that yesterday. The German Gepard vehicle that's going to Ukraine. We saw this yesterday. A Muslim and a Jewish soldier took cover in a foxhole together. Let's go to the newest clips. If there is any newest clips today. Oh man, I need this shirt. I need this one. You got the tractor towing the Russian tank. I need that. Saw the tank in the east. Saw the incendiary munitions, donated wood to the residents of Kramatorsk. 4+ generation jet fighters being sent. Saw that. Saw them training. Field breakdown. That might be it for video report here today. Yeah, it might be time to get into the map breakdown and the territorial gains and losses within Ukraine. Before we get into that, if you guys are interested for more content from me tonight after this map breakdown, head on over to Snack Squad TV YouTube channel. Looks just like this. It's already set up, so if you just hang out in the Mercado Media feed on YouTube, if you just stay in that chat, you will be redirected to the next stream, which is Stray. I'm going to be streaming Stray. It's a game about a cat. And it's just a nice, relaxing post-war stream to go through. With a lot of my viewers are saying they don't want to see shooting games after the war coverage, and that makes perfect sense. So this is a great, chill game. Play as a cat. Awesome community. There's already people over there waiting already, it looks like, for the video game stream. So head on over to Snack Squad TV or just hang out here on Mercado Media, and I will redirect you to this live stream, and you can hang out with us tonight on Snack Squad TV. And also the chat there won't be members only, so if you're not a member of Mercado Media or Snack Squad, you'll be able to comment, and I would like to see your thoughts from today's news updates if you haven't been able to chat, because it's members only. All right, so let's get into it here. Map breakdown for July 23rd, 2022. I'm your host, Andy Mercado from Mercado Media, and let's just dive right into it. So here is the map of Ukraine. We have 3 main fronts going on within the war at this time, and I will highlight those. You have the southern axes in Ukraine. You have the east, which is Donbass region, and you have the northeast, which is the Kharkiv Oblast, and the international border with Belgorod. These are the three main fronts that are still happening within Ukraine at this time. Some of the map features: the red on the map is assessed Russian advance within the country. So this is Ukraine. The red on the map means that's where the Russians are. The yellow on the map, which is in certain sections of the Donbass region to the northeast and to the south, that is claimed Russian control. So that's just claimed Russian advance further on into the country. Similar to that, you have the light blue color, which is claimed Ukrainian counteroffensives. So this is territory that Russia once held, or Russian troops were in this region, and now the Ukrainian forces have pushed them back through their counteroffensives, and now the Ukrainians control that territory. Other map features are this blue slashes within some of these Russian-occupied territories and Russian-occupied cities within Ukraine, and that is going to be reported Ukrainian partisan warfare happening within the country. So let's get into it. We're going to start right away here with the east in the Donbass, and I'm gonna do something different, and I'm gonna leave it like this, and when I'm talking about a certain city, I will then highlight it at that time. All right, I'm not gonna circle all of them right now. When I'm referencing a city, I will circle it. It's gonna be a red circle if it's a Russian controlled city, a blue circle if it's a Ukrainian controlled city, and then I'll use the purple to highlight any ground lines of communication that are important for July 23rd. All right. So in the east, in the Donbass, which is the main, click this. The main effort. So southern Kharkiv, Donetsk, and Lugansk Oblast, the Russian objective is encircle Ukrainian forces in eastern Ukraine and capture the entirety of the Donetsk and Lugansk Oblasts, the claimed territory of Russia's proxies within Ukraine. So the first city we're going to be talking about here is the city of Slovyansk, and I'm going to highlight that. Here is Slovyansk in the Donbass. Russian forces conducted a limited ground assault northwest of Slovyansk and shelled settlements to the southeast and southwest of Izium on July 23rd. The Ukrainian General Staff stated that Ukrainian troops neutralized a Russian reconnaissance group in Borodarichny, about 20 kilometers northwest of Slovyansk. Russian forces shelled Dubrovny, Krasnopilia, and Manznivka, all northwest of Slovyansk along the Kharkiv-Donetsk Oblast border, as well as areas southwest of Izium in the vicinity of Barankov. So no territorial gains or losses, just shelling of the region around Slovyansk. And here's Izium and Liman, which are Russian-controlled cities, and just shellings around them. Here's their advance. Here's where the Russians are advancing from the Izium and Liman direction towards Slovyansk. Unsuccessful here for July 23rd. The next city we're going to be talking about is the city of Siversk in Ukraine, Ukrainian-controlled city of Siversk, to the east of Slovyansk. Russian forces conducted ground attacks east of Siversk in an attempt to directly advance on the city on July 23rd. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Russian troops tried and failed to advance in the directions of Verkhomihansky and Siversk. The language of this report suggests that Russian forces may be advancing closer to the outskirts of Siversk itself from positions in the east. Russian forces also continued air and artillery strikes to the north, south, and east of Siversk. So attempted to advance directly into the city, but tried and failed, and just artillery strikes to the north, south, and east. So no gains, no movement into Siversk, failed attempt. The next city we're going to be talking about is the city of Bakhmut, and that is to the south of Siversk, still Ukrainian-controlled. City of Bakhmut. Russian forces conducted limited reconnaissance operations to the east of Bakhmut and continued unsuccessful ground attacks to the south of Bakhmut on July 23rd. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian forces stopped Russian reconnaissance groups from probing Ukrainian positions around Pokrovsky, which is 5 kilometers east of Bakhmut, and Soledar, 10 kilometers northeast of Bakhmut, and that Russian forces continued unsuccessful attacks near the Vuhledar power plant in Novoluhansky, about 20 kilometers southeast of Bakhmut. Russian forces continued artillery and airstrikes on and around Bakhmut to continue to set conditions for advances directly on the city. So for both Bakhmut and Siversk, Russians are just shelling civilian populations in preparation for advancing upon the city. No territorial gains or losses in Bakhmut on July 23rd. Just similar story that happened a few weeks ago in Severodonetsk and Lysychansk to the further east of Siversk, which is here. Here's Lysychansk and Siversk. The Russians shelled those cities day in and day out and then moved in on them afterwards. They'll shell the civilian population, kill as many civilians as they can, soften the area, divert Ukrainian resources to that area so they're pulled away from the front line, and then their military will advance in. So no territorial gains or losses in Bakhmut, just shelling of civilian populace in that area in preparation for a direct advance to it. The next city we're going to be talking about is Avdiivka in the Donbass. Here is the city of Avdiivka, even further to the southwest from Bakhmut. Right, there's Avdiivka. Russian forces did not conduct any confirmed ground attacks in the Avdiivka area and continued to fire on Ukrainian positions along the Avdiivka-Donetsk city front line. NASA firms data from July 15th to the 23rd shows consistently fewer fires along the entire front line in the Donbass, which strongly suggests that HIMARS are having a continued impact on Russian artillery capabilities. Let's pull that up real quick. I'm going to pull the firm's data up. So this is going to show you that. Here's NASA firms. It shows you the red dots are how many fires are in the region. And we're looking here. I'm going to highlight it. This is where Siversk is in the blue. Move that off the screen. So around Avdiivka, you just see less and less. All right, from the 15th, you see the dots, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and then back in the 15th, you can see those dots again. All right. So that's the NASA firms report. Hey, Larry, just edit it to that one part until I started talking. Shout out to editor Larry, who edits the map videos together. And that's it. That's it in the East for July 23rd, 2022. No territorial gains or losses by the Russian military, just preparation to advance on the city of Siversk. So I'll highlight this. So here's the Russian direction, the Russian advance. And then I'll also highlight they'll be coming from Popasna and Horlivka, which Horlivka was just shelled today from Ukrainian military. But they're going to be advancing on Bakhmut from Popasna from the east. But today, no territorial gains or losses, all failed advances on these cities. The Ukrainians have held them off. Next, we're going to be going up to the northeast along the international border with the city of Kharkiv and Belgorod. Okay, oops. And I will reference any. So I'm just going to highlight Belgorod right away because these are the only two cities that are referenced in this region. Belgorod, and then also Kharkiv, which is Ukrainian controlled. Okay, and then the international border is where you see the blue, yellow, and red. This is the border with Ukraine and Russia. Let's get into it. Supporting effort number 1, Kharkiv City, Russian objective. Defend ground lines of communication to ease them and prevent Ukrainian forces from reaching the Russian border. Russian forces did not conduct any ground assaults on Kharkiv City on July 23rd. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Russian forces continued to focus on restraining Ukrainian advances towards the international border. Russian forces conducted an airstrike on Verkhny Saltiv and continued shelling Kharkiv City and the surrounding settlements. And that's it. Nothing, no gains by the Russian military, no gains by the Ukrainian military, just an airstrike on Verkhny Saltiv, continuing shelling on Kharkiv City and the surrounding settlements. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed in the northeast today. Now let's get to the southern axes, the final front. Southern axes within Ukraine. I'm going to highlight the two main cities here that are referenced. I might leave it at that. So I'm going to highlight the city of Mykolaiv in the south. Then I'm going to highlight the city of Kherson. These are the two key cities here in which artillery fire is being volleyed back and forth. A lot of the ground forces, a lot of the ground fighting is taking place between these two cities in particular in Ukraine on the southern axes, specifically on each side of the Inhlwets River, which is here. I'm going to just circle the Inhlwets River with this green line. All right, that's the Inhlwets River. Ukrainian forces struck a bridge over the Inhlwets River less than 10 kilometers from Kherson City in Darivka, Kherson Oblast, on July 23rd. Footage shows 6 equidistant points of impact on the bridge and that passenger vehicles are able to cross the bridge but must evade the holes. Ukrainian Kherson Oblast Administration Advisor Sergey Kuzovlev stated that Ukrainian forces struck the Darivka Bridge as part of a sustained operation to cut the supply lines of Russian forces in Kherson City. And that bridge that was hit is down here. They hit the bridge down here in Darivka. So they've been hitting a bridge here in Kherson, the Antonivsky Bridge. They've been hitting a bridge to the east of the main city, and the Ukrainians just hit one or shelled a bridge to the southeast of the city of Kherson, which is still in the Kherson Oblast, very close to the Crimean Peninsula, to attempt to halt or pause or slow down the Russian military and the fresh troops and equipment getting into Kherson. Ukrainians are preparing for a counteroffensive here. Russian forces conducted strikes on rear areas of the southern axes on July 23rd, likely to stymie Ukrainian preparations for counteroffensives on the axes. Russian forces launched 4-caliber missiles at the port of Odessa, striking a pumping station and a granary without significant damage. Footage of the strike shows Ukrainian air defense intercepting at least 2 missiles. Kirovohrad Oblast head Andriy Rakovich stated that Russian forces also struck the Kantonov military airfield and a Yurkonoritsia rail transport facility in Kirovohrad Oblast with 8 sea-launched caliber missiles and 5 air-launched Kh-22 missiles. Ukrainian Mykolaiv Oblast head Vitaly Kim stated that Russian forces again struck Mykolaiv city with S-300 anti-aircraft missiles. So missiles going back and forth between these two cities and oblasts. The Ukrainians are destroying ammunition depots, especially in the city of Nova Kakhovka, which is to the east of Kherson. Here's Nova Kakhovka, and the increasing Russian ammunition depots that are shelled from the Ukrainian military. And the Russian military is responding by shelling residential populaces in the city of Mykolaiv, in the region of Mykolaiv. So again, just Grad, multiple launch rocket system strikes, KH cruise missile strikes from Russia into the Mykolaiv Oblast, just missiles going back and forth. The Ukrainians are really preparing for a push into Kherson in a big counteroffensive. Russian forces did not conduct any ground assaults on the southern axes on July 23rd and continued shelling along the entire line of contact. So no gains or losses territorially. The Ukrainians continued to shell bridges in the southern axes to stymie the Russian military from getting into defensive positions in Kherson and resupply the already existing defensive positions in preparation for a counteroffensive into this city here. No territorial gains or losses as of July 23rd, 2022. So now we're just going to talk about mobilization and force generation efforts, and then we're going to finish up with activity in occupied areas within Ukraine. So this is just talking about military movements, and then also what is going on within the occupied cities in Ukraine at this time. So mobilization and force generation efforts. Russian objective: expand combat power without conducting general mobilization. The Kremlin is continuing efforts to form regionally based volunteer battalions. Spokesperson for Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, Vadim Shabitsky, gave an interview to Radio Free Europe. Excuse me, let me do that one more time. Ukraine's main intelligence directorate, Vadim Skibitsky, gave an interview to Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty on July 23rd, wherein he indicated that the Kremlin is planning to form 16 new volunteer battalions by the end of this month. Skibitsky also noted that the Kremlin is forming another corps in Malino in the Nizhny Novgorod Oblast, which seemingly supports prior statements made by the former Kyiv Defense Force commander Alexander Pavluk that Russia is forming a third army corps. The forces of the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics currently form the 1st and 2nd Army Corps respectively. So you're going to have the 3rd Army Corps in Russia coming up, with up to 15,000 servicemen in Malino. Skibitsky stated that 8 volunteer battalions have been formed as of July 23rd. The Kremlin has not yet formed a volunteer battalion in St. Petersburg, the birthplace of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Listen, you can put troops in the uniform. You can put anyone in a uniform, right? Anybody can wear one of those. Any human being can put that on. It's what you do when you're wearing it, right? It's the skills and the training that goes into what wearing a military uniform means. Just having the military uniform or just being told you're in the military now doesn't mean anything. Likely going to be lots of cannon fodder here for the Ukrainians with all of these volunteer battalions. We've already seen plenty of evidence and video clips from the Russian media showcasing what these battalions are going to have to offer and who's volunteering to fight for Russia in these battalions. It's not good. Not good at all. Authorities in Russia, not good in terms of not good for Russia to accomplish their goals. It's not going to go well. They have a lot of their volunteer units are middle-aged, elderly, middle-aged men, middle-aged white men, and it's not the other big important aspect to this is the commanders of these battalions are likely going to have to fight with their ground forces, because we've already seen the big commanders of these units having to fight in the trenches with their troops. Doesn't matter if they're a general or a high-ranking commander. These units are going to be fodder, but they're numbers. That's what Russia sees. They're big numbers that they can throw at Ukraine, but it's all empty. They're going to be empty numbers, because again, you need training and you need to know what the hell you're doing when you're in the military. You can't just go and fight just because you're told to go fight. It's not going to go well. Authorities in Russia's Tyumen Oblast additionally announced the formation of 3 volunteer units in the Tyumen Oblast on July 22nd. Alexei Kulichov, which is Tyumen's military commissar, stated that the first company of the Tobol separate engineering battalion, comprised of over 50 people, has already deployed to unspecified training grounds, and that Tyumen is also forming the Taiga volunteer sniper unit, echelon unspecified, and the Siberia artillery battalion. It's coming up with their own unit names. It's coming up with that, whatever. For deployment to Donbass after 2 or 3 weeks of training. 2 or 3 weeks. And the conscript units are getting like 2 to 3 days. Russian federal subjects are notably forming combat support, and combat service support units. You can't do that. You can't train for that in 2 to 3 weeks. Listen, in the U.S. Army, in the Army basic training, they take 2 to 3 weeks just to teach you how to wash your ass, how to shower, how to bathe properly, how to use the bathroom. You'd be surprised how many adults don't know how to take care of themselves on just a basic level. But 2 or 3 weeks, like that just covers how to teach you how to be they use that time just to teach you how to exist, basically, in the U.S. military. 2 to 3 weeks. What is that? I don't even think I touched a weapon until after the first month when we got on the range, or towards the end of the first month when we got to the range for the first time. Russian federal subjects are notably forming combat support, and combat service support units, so not all 16 new battalions or 85, if and when all federal subjects form units, will be in combat battalions. Alright, that's the mobilization and force generation efforts update. Now let's get the annexation. That's attempted to take place in the southern axes. Activity in Russian-occupied areas. Russian objective: consolidate administrative control of occupied areas, set conditions for potential annexation into the Russian Federation, or some other future political arrangement of Moscow's choosing. Russian occupation officials continue to set conditions for referenda on the integration of occupied areas into the Russian Federation. Russian-backed head of Zaporizhia's occupation administration, Yevgeny Butslitsky, stated on July 23rd that he signed a decree to initiate preparations for a referendum on the integration of occupied Zaporizhia Oblast into Russia by autumn of 2022. Bolitsky claimed that this decree eliminated existing election bodies and created an entirely new election commission. Russian-backed occupation administrators escalated measures to further isolate occupied areas from the non-Russian information space. Occupation heads of Kherson and Zaporizhia Oblasts announced on July 23rd that they will start restricting the use of Google and YouTube in occupied areas in order to limit the ability of residents to search for Ukrainian websites on Google. Listen, anybody that's tuning in from Ukraine, I know we have some viewers that are in Ukraine that tune into Mercado Media. Make sure you get a VPN. All right, I'm not sponsored by any VPNs or whatever. There's YouTubers that are, but get a VPN. That's all I can suggest. Kherson occupation head Kirill Strumistov stated that he additionally banned the use of Viber messaging app and that YouTube video hosting has been slowed down. The Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republics, LNR and DNR, blocked Google on July 21st and 22nd respectively. Russian authorities are likely to keep enacting such controls on the information space in order to curb the dissemination of any anti-Russian messaging. So they're censoring Google and YouTube now in the East, or they're throttling YouTube, shadow banning YouTube, if you will. They've blocked Google, and they're also preparing for a referendum in the autumn of 2022. We've heard September 11th is a goal, and the eliminating election bodies are going to be removed, and they're going to create a new election commission to annex these cities, or at least attempt to, in Ukraine. Final key takeaways for July 23rd, 2022. This is the summary of the day in general altogether. Ukrainian forces are likely preparing to launch or have launched a counteroffensive in Kherson Oblast. Head of the Chechen Republic Ramzan Kadyrov indicated that Colonel General Sergey Kuzovlev is the acting commander of the Southern Military District. Russian forces conducted limited reconnaissance operations east of Bakhmut and continued limited ground attacks northwest of Slovyansk, east of Siversk, and south of Bakhmut. The Kremlin continued to form regional volunteer battalions and likely intends to have 16 such battalions formed by the end of July. Russian occupation authorities are continuing to prepare for referenda on the annexation of occupied areas into the Russian Federation and are taking measures to isolate occupied areas from the non-Russian information space. And that's your update for July 23rd, 2022. Day 150 of the war in Ukraine. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this map update. I'm your host, Andy Mercado, again from Mercado Media. I'm an independent journalist, U.S. Army veteran. Map videos posted daily. Live streams covering the war in Ukraine posted daily. We're live at 8 p.m. Central Time. Every single night you can join our live audience here on Facebook, on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for all of the support. Drop in the comments below. I'd like to know, do you guys think that Russia will accomplish their annexation plans by September 11th? Comment that in the comments below. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a wonderful night. See you guys on the next one. Take care.